Welcome to Security Architecture Podcast, where we help cybersecurity professionals to stay ahead of the curve and ensure they are successful in their cybersecurity journey.
Hi, I'm Evgeny.
Hi, I'm Dimitri.
We have here Noa from Checkpoint. Checkpoint here the second time on the show, but Noa only first time. Noa, can you please tell us how you got to Checkpoint and a bit more about the company?
Sure. So, hi everybody. My name is Noa Zilberman. I'm a part of Checkpoint now. I used to be just a month ago one of the co-founders and chief product of Odo Security that was recently acquired by Checkpoint. And now I joined the Checkpoint team as a part of the PM team working on SASE and the remote access solution of Checkpoint.
Noa, do you already know how this offering would be named in Checkpoint?
We're integrating our product into a larger Checkpoint product called CloudGuard Connect, and that's the SASE product of Checkpoint.
If I want to use this solution, it would be CloudGuard Connect.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a podcast about architecture. So we definitely want to understand more about Odo architecture. We're quite familiar with the Checkpoint CloudGuard architecture. And while we understand there is no full plan on how everything will work together, we would like to understand how you guys used to work.
Yeah, sure. So should I share my screen and just show you?
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good. Okay, so there actually is an architecture in place and everything is set up. So, we're planning by the end of 2020 to be all set up with the integration of Odo inside CloudGuard Connect. So that's just, in a bit. But for now, let me just cover the Odo part, the Odo architecture and how this looks like.
We want to understand how many POPs you have or how they designed, what was the methodology behind it, how you guys basically elastically growing or not growing.
So one of the cool things about Odo is exactly like you said, the fact that we're cloud-based and we're infinite scale. So we're growing alongside our customers. Growing or shrinking the other way around if customers are returning to work from the office. The basic architecture, I'll just cover it in a nutshell so we'll all be aligned. We have our cloud-based control plane and data plane. Those are two separate instances containing a bunch of frameworks. The control plane is the component that is in charge of the authentication and authorization. This is the SaaS platform. And the gateway is where the traffic flows through and is blocked or authorized based on the policies determined in the control plane. From the user side, and this is one of the coolest parts of Odo, is the fact that we're completely clientless. So there is no need to deploy anything on the actual endpoint. The only thing that the customer actually needs to set up is our connector. This is the small component that sits here. You need one of those for each data center, and it's a simple Docker. So it can be run on literally any infrastructure, on-premise, on any cloud provider. It connects on an outbound connection to the gateway. And from there, you're all set up and you can start working and you're ready to go. As for POPs and high availability, we're fully highly available across the US, APAC, EMEA. We have POPs anywhere. And from the connector standpoint, so that's also, we're providing you a connector, a Docker secret, and you can then, set up as many connectors as you want to create this high availability within your data center. We're automatically load balanced. We have a built-in load balancing capabilities so that, we support that out of the box.
So you have your own Docker repository, and then
yes, exactly.
Pull down the connector and run it locally. Here's one of the questions, the gateway itself. Is it relying purely on public cloud or it's something that you run on your own hardware?
It's public cloud based, but the beauty behind our architecture is everything is super agile and easy. So we're all set up on Kubernetes, on dynamic clusters, so it can be literally pulled up and transferred to any cloud on-prem, the entire architecture. So, for example, we started with one cloud provider, then moved to the other, alongside supporting customers because it was that easy. We're now fully AWS hosted. We're planning also expanding to Azure and GCP, just for the sake of it. And this should not be a problem for us because everything is that agile.
So when I'm making a connection to the gateway, Let's say I'm based in Sydney, Australia. Where is your gateway going to reside in such case?
Yeah, so that's probably, we have one in Asia, so that would probably be the closest one. But in any case, again, if there shouldn't be, but if there are any issues with latency, we can always set up additional gateways. That's about a 2-hour work for us. These are the type of things that we were working on at Odo. We were actually investing a lot of time and effort on making this architecture as resilient as possible and as agile as possible. So any data plane could be set up in a few hours, any connector can be set up in minutes, and this entire architecture can be, pulled up and moved anywhere. And that's a big part of the idea.
Very, very interesting. And what type of encryption is working between the client and the gateway?
Yeah, so we're using mutual TLS on any tunnel. So maybe I'll just explain the journey of the user so you could better understand what's actually going on here. So this is all completely transparent for the user, and I can also show you, a small demo and how it actually works and looks like from the user perspective. Small spoiler, it's completely transparent, but just so you know what's happening behind the scenes, the user authenticates to the control plane. The control plane then verifies the user identity based on multiple authentication factors, MFA, device, location, obviously credentials, and then returns to the user his available list of applications. And this is a major part of our offering, our Zero Trust Network Access offering, that's ZTNA, the least privileged access. The fact that this user would only be allowed to access a subset of the resources here. So this is based on the SDP approach, on the software-defined perimeter. And what this says is that each user, instead of once trusted being inside the network and given full network level access to anything, here we're assuming the user is not trustworthy and only exposing to him a small set of applications that were pre-authorized. So then, by the way, the controller and the gateway are in constant communication, so any change in permission is automatically propagated to the gateway. If it's authorized, it will be transferred all the way through the gateway and all the way to the right data center, the right application. And if the request is not authorized, it will be blocked here in the gateway level.
Because it's clientless, can you check anything from where I'm coming, from what kind of a device? Can I understand what is a device, if it's a domain connected device or just any device?
Yeah, so we have the actual user agent that the user used to connect. But if you want, a deeper understanding of the device, we're actually now building and integrating with Checkpoint's compliance check. And then, once we have that, it would be an even stronger offering than what we have today.
On the connector part, is there a bandwidth limitation on how much traffic you can push from a gateway to the connector?
Yeah, so we've actually did intensive testing and we haven't reached any cap. We have customers working with, thousands of tens of thousands of users at a time. And then from the server level, we have literally thousands of servers connected through one connector, maybe two for high availability. So we haven't actually yet reached our limit, but I'm guessing that there is. And once there will be, you could just set up another connector. And this is a part of the idea of the agility. You could take that secret, set it up on an auto-scaling group, and then, if there is any bandwidth issues or limitations, you can just automatically spin up additional servers.
On a scalability part on the gateway and the controller, would it automatically scale and build new controllers and gateways if needed?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. Last question on this topic. If I log in from Australia, as Dimitri was mentioned, how the system will know? Is it like a smart CDN behind it that I need to go to a controller in Australia and not the one in Toronto?
So actually, no. The idea is that we're not connecting the users through specific gateways. We're connecting the sites, the data centers, to this gateway. So we know the user, we know what applications he's trying to connect to, and then routing him through the closest gateway to that application and not to that user. So you end up getting the same effect, but we don't actually need to keep track of where the user is because the applications are static.
How would you license this specific product? And I'm talking just about the remote access. Is it seats, users? bandwidth, concurrent connections, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we're currently charging it per seat, user-based. This is how we did it in Odo, and now this is also how we're planning to do it with Checkpoint, so it's pretty consistent. We do also look at a server-based offering for a more in-depth engineering use case. And in that case, it may vary like cloud instances, but generally speaking, this is fully user-based.
Do you charge anything for the connectors or the traffic that goes through the cloud?
No, we do have a fair use policy, but other than that, no.
You mentioned how you guys tied back to user identity and MFA. Can you describe more? Can you say what else working when I log in? I maybe do Okta. Does it provide single sign-on later on to the application? I need to log in.
So as a product manager at Odo, one of the things that led me is that segregation between the authorization, or I would say between the authentication and the actual access. My mantra was just, keep the authentication factors within your IDP, for example, or SSO, and we will inherit that permissions and route you all the way to inside the application. Now that we're a part of Checkpoint and we have, a broader developer strength and technology and everything is much, deeper, we're actually able to take that concept and expand it all the way inside. And that actually creates a really cool features. So instead of being, I look at it like a tap that can either be like on and off, we actually have the option to moderate the flow within it. So for example, if before that you could just say, you need an MFA, and once you're authenticated, you could be you could gain access to anything inside, or just your allowed segment. Now we can say, if authenticated by credentials only, you can access applications 1, 2, and 3. In order, then you could have compliance check to access applications 4 and 5, and maybe an additional MFA to access this specific, production server or production database. So you could actually get into really cool granularities and policies that are really advanced. And this is a part of, the vision for us and where we want to take this product.
That's one of the pitfalls at the customer side. Usually you might get into huge mess. And you can have like permissions that you're providing to groups and teams and individuals, etc., which you don't know they have.
So first of all, it's all about user experience, in my opinion. If you deliver good user experience and you actually understand your customers and their struggles, you'll be able to overcome this challenge. But to your second question, we also have in our roadmap the option to do time-based access. So the user would only be allowed for a certain application through a specific period of time. And this is another cool feature within our platform. You could also apply a specific role, for example. So
the user can assume the role for a permitted period of time, and then this role will be not available for him.
Exactly. You could get read-only access to this database for 5 hours. So currently we do have the role-based access controls. We don't yet have the temporary access, but this is, as you can imagine, already a solved question. So it's just a matter of time.
The world around us transforming, and we're consuming the web through our browser, but we also now switch to work through our browser, right? And from my understanding, you have a clientless approach to the problem, which is very fresh and very new. However, there's other applications that are more heavy, right, and different protocols, etc. How you address this kind of?
Yeah, so we're actually not fully web-based. We have the web and RDP offering. They both are web-based, and RDP we're also working on a native access. But for database
right now RDP is it's like image-based.
Yes, it's browser-based, but let me. Yeah, I can show you in a minute why we did that. But just to answer that question, SSH and database are native from any client. You can run that. And then to touch on your point of the RDP itself, by the way, this is our platform. This is the user view. You have here your different folders, web access, RDP, SSH, database, and some SSH tunneling. But you know what, let me even take you one step further. As for your question, why we did RDP from the browser, here you can see my IDP dashboard and all my applications, and these would usually be SaaS applications. But here, I can click on my RDP and connect all the way inside the server without actually my need to provide any credentials. Mm-hmm. So that's a really cool part of what we do. We have a lot of technology happening behind the scenes to make this experience that seamless. But at the end of the day, the idea is we're taking the Okta or whatever IDP credentials, and you can think of that as kind of forwarding them all the way inside the server. What's actually happening behind the scenes is much more complex. But this is a part of our SSO for servers, which is pretty cool.
For the RDP, you don't need to install anything on that
Nothing.
Remote server. It's only the controller that does this RDP.
Yeah. By the way, not only for the RDP, for any one of those protocols, you don't need to install anything on the actual, not the user device or the actual endpoint server.
So with the protocols you just showed to us, RDP, SSH, tell me what other protocols you guys can support. How would you deal with file share, printing, VoIP, or password changes, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is, by the way, a part of the, I wouldn't even say limitations, it's just a part of the scope of the product. And it's important to know that we support these protocols: web, RDP, SSH, database, and SSH tunneling. And if you want any client-server applications or thick applications, that would require you to deploy Checkpoint's client. So you have both options, and then each customer can decide how he wants to divide it. If he has certain users that can only use this offering, that's perfect. If not, maybe just for BYOD, maybe just for specific contractors. So you could decide how you want to play this out. However, we are now investigating additional protocol supports. We can do literally anything. We just need the prioritization. So we have file shares, email exchange, maybe some specific applications like SAP. These are all in our roadmap, and we're planning to release it probably in the next year.
Do you see what actually passing through the connection to the server?
I'm glad you asked. So that's also a very special part of our architecture. So what we actually did that is different from traditional, it's funny to say traditional because it's pretty new, but I would say other ZTNA solutions out there, is the fact that we actually took the awareness of the protocol from the user device to our data plane. This means that obviously this is what allows us to be completely clientless, but this also means that here we have a set of identity and protocol aware proxies that parse all the data and are completely protocol aware. I couldn't stretch enough, and I probably don't need to tell you the amount of work it took from us to do that sort of thing. But this is, like I mentioned, we're all about the user experience, and this is why we actually decided to invest this amount of time and effort into that architecture. Now, with those identity and protocol aware proxies, we can do a few cool things. For example, the key management that you just saw, the fact that we created the authentication all the way inside the server. So the user actually authenticated to us, and then we connected him all the way inside the server, and we did a password or a key in other servers manipulation over there. The other advantages that it gives us is the option to actually see all the way inside the data and not only show it to the administrator, but also the ability to block things in real time. So let me give you an example. When I go to the admin dashboard, you'll be able to see your different sites and locations around the world where they're all hosted. Let me just jump directly to the activity log. And if I zoom into one of those things, let's say the RDP, for example, I can actually view everything that the user was doing. Now, this is obviously optional. You don't have to turn on this feature. I can tell you that 100% of our customers are using that.
I have a question about this. So from my understanding, the way how your RDP works is that you're taking screen recording, right? Or everything is screen recording, looking based.
Yeah. By the way, same goes for SSH. For example, you can see here, not sure how interesting this session is, but you can see everything that users were doing. And we have that for web access as well. So I could go to the Jenkins, let's say, for example, and view session.
Can you identify something weird in these connections? Based on this screen session?
Yeah, exactly. So I can't specifically now, but that's the idea of how we built it UX wise. So you could either see the session that the user did, or you could just investigate. You knew that something bad happened, or you had an incident between 4:30 and 4:32. You don't know which user was there. You don't know where he went. So you could just filter based on that and get all of the requests that were done at that time with this specific app. So you can investigate. But now the other cool thing that we do, like I mentioned, is the fact that we could also do a role-based access. So for example, let me go to the database and go to Postgres. This is a database access. And here you have the different databases on top of the server. And for example, for Postgres, I have view permissions only. So let me grab this password. Let me go to my Postgres client. I would provide this password here and connect. And by the way, here I'm connecting without any clients running in the background, without actually ever being exposed to the database, to the server password. But if I go here and try to change this, I do save changes and I'm blocked. I'm unauthorized to perform this action. Again, we have our proxies in the cloud. We can see everything and we can enforce the policies that you create for us. If I go back to the administrator dashboard, I would go to Postgres. I can change the actual profile that this user has.
You show some basic alerting and reporting capabilities. Is there more reporting I can see? Is there more user behavior or maybe alerting of parts of the solution right now?
So not currently, but this is 100% priority based. We used to have something. We actually shut it off just for the sake of the past few months. But we have all the data and now creating advanced calculations, preventions, analytics on top of that. That's just again, this is just a matter of time for us, and this is where we're headed.
We actually are done with the official part of the podcast, the questions, and now we're moving to open topics. Anything you want to share before we ask you some questions that we've kind of we're thinking in the middle?
No, I think we pretty much touched the big parts.
Interesting. I do have a couple. Interesting, the checkpoint used to have a product called connector in the past. That was in a way similar. It was a long time ago, maybe before the era. So in a way, you guys did a connector on steroids and looked like a lot of steroids because it looks pretty slick. Actually, I just remember one. You mentioned multiple IDP providers. How about tokens like YubiKey or Titan Key from Google?
So we're actually integrated with Google KickOff. The idea is we have two optional modes. The first one is IDP mode, in which you connect your IDP and then we just inherit whatever MFA the IDP has. It doesn't concern us. We're just getting the token, the SAM authentication. And then the other mode is local mode, where you could leverage our own local directory. You could contain and manage users and credentials and groups within our system. In that mode, you could also apply MFAs, for example, KickOff and additional ones.
Thank you. We're going to ask you later on for links on how we can POC and how we can learn more. And we're going to share them as part of the podcast link. So thank you very much. It was our pleasure.
Thank you, Noa.
Thanks, Evgeny, Dimitri.
Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and join us for our next episode.